Hi, I'm Wesley Ferreira, clarinet professor at Colorado State University, and today I'm going to discuss ways to help you to prepare for this year's Colorado All-State Band and Orchestra audition. In this video, Rose's Etude number 13 will be our focus. When preparing for an audition, it's important to try and determine what the particular musical selection chosen is meant to highlight. Rose's Etude number 13 is marked Adagio non troppo, with an added espressivo indication in the first measure. These markings suggest that the etude is to be played slowly and with expression. Keep this in mind and practice with these characteristics during your entire preparation process. The all-state requirement this year is to perform the first 24 measures of this etude at quarter equals 63. It's clear then that this etude, compared to the other, is meant to highlight more of your tone and musicality. Let's go over some important and basic concepts to keep in mind when preparing this etude. Subdividing. For many, playing this etude evenly may be a possible first obstacle. Make sure to keep a steady eighth note subdivision going from the outset. This will allow you to place all of the notes in their accurate rhythmic position. Since you want to perform this piece at quarter equals 63, then have your metronome clicking at 126, which makes it eighth note equals 126. This is a good idea when you begin practicing, to practice even slower than this tempo marking. Use the metronome to keep you steady. While breathing and musicality will allow for stretching of the pulse, the eighth note subdivision should be kept relatively even. In this etude, be sure to play the triplet 16th note figures in measures 3, 5, and 6 evenly. The 3 16th notes subdivide into one eighth note click of the metronome. Also, be sure to differentiate between the dotted eighth note to 16th note rhythm when it appears in measures 12 and 15, and the double dotted eighth note to 32nd note rhythm when it appears later in measures 17, 21, and 22. Playing these details accurately will make a big difference in your audition. Let's now talk about some of the tricky fingerings that you'll encounter in this etude. First, there are many accidentals in this etude, including several notes that we're not always used to reading. Remember that E sharps are played like F naturals. The A sharps are also B flats, and that the D sharps are E flats. These notes sound enharmonically to each other, respectively. Perhaps the most tricky part of this etude is the figure in measure 6. Unless you have a clarinet with an added E flat D sharp key on the left side like this, then you're going to encounter an issue in this measure. Let's take a look. Because the Rose etudes were originally written for oboe by Franz Ferling, sometimes we encounter really awkward fingerings that don't work well on the clarinet. If you're playing a standard B-flat clarinet without the added key on the left side, I recommend that you play the B natural, the second note, on the right side. You'll move next to playing the C sharp on the left side, allowing you to play the D sharp as you normally would with your right pinky finger. Playing in this manner means that you will need to slide between the first two notes. Although this is discouraged on the clarinet, it is necessary here. Luckily, the marking over the figure of staccatos under a slur will help you. This marking means that the notes should sound long, but that you should tongue and separate each. The momentary stoppage of sound will allow you to move your finger quickly from the D sharp to the B natural without any extraneous sounds. Here's an example. Now, there are many instances in this etude when you have the option of flipping between two notes. Like sliding between two notes, flipping is also generally discouraged when playing the clarinet, though sometimes it is necessary. The reason is because it's often difficult to flip between two notes smoothly. Luckily, you have alternate fingering options to help reduce the level of difficulty. Measures 13 and 14 have examples that I'd like to talk about. In measure 13, instead of flipping back and forth between the F sharp and the E sharp, like so, instead play the F sharp as a forked F sharp. You will have to then play the second F sharp with your middle finger in order to move to the C sharp without sliding your ring finger. So the figure will look and sound like this. Looking at measure 14 now, instead of flipping back and forth between the low F sharp to E sharp and then back to F sharp, like so, instead play the F sharp with the side keys If you haven't used this fingering before, it's a very useful one to know. It's played with your thumb covering the back tone hole as you normally would when playing F natural, and then adding the 2 lowest side keys. Here's a demonstration of measure 14 using the side key fingering for F sharp. Notice how I've avoided flipping fingers, and the passage sounds smoothly. Finally, let's talk about playing this etude with style and in character. Achieving a lyrical character means that you need to use continuous breath support and air to connect notes within each phrase. Focus on how you play each phrase. Playing with your very best tone will also help to achieve a lyrical characteristic. Your breaths should be planned out and practiced. They should be silent so as not to detract from the music. And here's a tip. Pay attention to how the ends of your notes sound. We too often focus on the beginning and middle of notes, and then mentally move on to the beginning of the next note. There are not very many dynamic markings listed in this etude, other than the piano at the beginning and the mezzo forte at measure 20. But this doesn't mean that you cannot play at other dynamic levels, especially when shaping. As I spoke about briefly in the opening, this etude should be played evenly, but should not sound metronomic. After practicing with the metronome and feeling confident that you can play the rhythms with even pulse, turn off the metronome and begin to interpret the phrases, giving them shape and flow. Consult with your teachers for help. Have fun with your interpretation and make sure that you practice in a way that your habits show off the great tone and lyrical playing. It's been a pleasure sharing my thoughts on this etude. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments section below or contact me via email. Also, please feel free to email sound or video files if you'd like me to review them and offer any suggestions. Good luck with your auditions.